Bonisila back here with another episode of the Foot and Nose podcast. After a weekend leading into the international break that produced a lot of goals actually this last weekend. I don't know if teams are starting to get tired or everybody now everybody's mission is starting to get clearer to them maybe. And so teams are just coming out and playing and punching and punching. Only one game didn't have goals in this weekend. That was Brighton, um, Crystal Palace at home to Brighton. Eventful game in terms of chances to win it for Palace later on, and Brighton had a few of their own as well. But the game, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about that game. I'll talk about a few big games, but like some of the interesting results that took place as well that I want to talk about. Um, Nottingham Forest finding a 3-1 win over Leeds. Amari Hutchinson coming in and affecting the game in the second half with an assist and winning a penalty to make it 3-1 at the end. Sean Dyche doing Sean Dyche things. And like I said, when he was appointed, it's going to be interesting to see him playing with this level of talent in his team because, he's always coached teams that were kind of flirting with the relegation zone or in it for most of the season, only to survive at the end of the season. So this is, yeah, in my memory, this is definitely the most talented group he's had in the Premier League. So, good to see him get a Premier League win, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does. I think this team has a lot more resources um, than at least three other teams in the Premier League. That I think they'll be better than three teams minimum. So, and they have Daishi who's gonna stop them leaking goals. He's more closer to Nuno, and the squad basically did well with Nuno. So it shouldn't be too much of a transition for this team to work with Sean Dyche's football principles. I think him and Nuno are more closer together than Nuno and Ange Postecoglou. So yeah, I think this win kind of, I mean, they're still in the relegation zone, but at least now they are a win or two away from getting out of there. Depending on what Leeds and Fulham and the other teams that are ahead of them. Surprisingly, Newcastle are sitting at 14th right now. They themselves fetched another result from a game that was of interest to me. Newcastle losing second week in a row now. They lost 3-1 to West Ham last week, and then they lost this week. Um, who were they playing again? Oh, they lost to Brentford, and they they're an interesting story in Newcastle because in the Champions League midweek they looked incredible, and I don't know if they're suffering. Actually, no, I do know. I think they are suffering from having European football, where they've had an up and down season, but like they've had more wins recently in Europe than they have in the Premier League. And this one as well was one of those games where Newcastle scored first, but Brentford finished what Newcastle started. And and then another one that I will talk about front about was West Ham 3, Burnley 2. I mean, Burnley, it was 3-1 until Burnley scored at the very, very death. But, as long as you score within the allowed time by the referee, the goal counts. But it was a good win for Nuno, 2 weekends in a row at home after winning last week 3-1 against Newcastle. Coming back from that from 1-0 down in both of these wins. West Ham are still not out of the woods. I think I'm more confident about Nottingham Forest's ability to break away from the relegation battle. I think Nottingham Forest has a deeper, better squad to continue a push further away from the relegation zone. West Ham, they have really good individuals spread across the team. And I think Nuno is going to be probably trying to integrate some young players. And to find some energy and to find some people who are going to be willing to do some defensive work, because West Ham has, yeah, people like Paqueta are not going to be reliable defensively. Somerville, good young player. Callum Wilson, injury prone. Jared Bowen, he's going to have a big season. And this kid, Potts, he's been starting in midfield since Nuno's been there, Freddie Potts. And I think he will find more kids. Nuno, he's not a very shy man to speak his mind. So he will definitely be letting people know in the changing room who are not doing what they need to do. But West Ham, I'm not worried about them, but I think they're gonna have to do something in January to help Nuno. Definitely, they're gonna have to do some stuff in January to help Nuno out. Um, and then the other interesting result that I won't talk too deeply about was Aston Villa 4, Bournemouth nil. This game was, I didn't see this coming. I thought Villa or Bournemouth could win the game, but I don't know really if anybody would have predicted a 4-0 in Villa's favor, especially after the performance that they put out at Anfield last week. Couple of good goals. Buendia has been in good form this season. He's finally having, I think, an impact at Villa Park that I think they thought they were getting earlier on when they bought him. This is a couple of seasons late, but better late than never, when it comes to to get to join the party. And Villa also just locked their man into an extension, Morgan Rogers, who is crucial for them. He's a very very big player for them. So, but yeah, Buendia is getting minutes and he's affecting games, goals, assists, and Andre Onana. Also, Amadou Onana, sorry, not Andre Onana. Andre Onana is the goalkeeper for Man United, who's now on loan somewhere. I think in Turkey. But anyway, Amadou Onana gets the goal, and Barkley, third goal. Doniel Malin, fourth goal. Um, big chance, I think, for Bournemouth to stay in the game. I don't know if it would have made much of a difference, but Semenyo missed a penalty early in the game when the game was a little bit tighter than what it ended up being. So who knows? On a different day, maybe that goal changes the game. But I think Aston Villa were the winners, and Bournemouth will be fine. And I think they are already doing better than what I think most people would be expecting Bournemouth to be doing. They've been good since Iraiola's been there, but this is the Premier League, and anybody can beat anybody on a given day. And then getting closer to some of the games that I really want to talk about, which is Man City and Arsenal, up there, because those two games include my picks for the top three in the Premier League. So then Spurs at home with Manchester United. These are two teams who I think are trying to build themselves back up. They're both on some kind of resurgence journey. It doesn't look pretty every week, but they've been getting results, and they both, if either of them had won this game, they would have finished that game being number two in the league. I know a lot of Tottenham fans are unhappy with the style of football, and which is an age-old conversation with fans in football. Do you want to win and win sexy, or do you want to win, or have sexy football and not really win, which is also a risk when you try to to entertain more than like trying to get an edge over the opponent and like playing the opponent rather than saying Arsene Wenger style, this is who we are, this is how we're going to show up every game. And different people have different flavors that they appreciate in terms of like the brand of football that they want to see week in week out at their home stadium at the very least. And I think Tottenham Hotspur fans are kind of similar to West Ham fans. They talk a lot about the Tottenham way or the West Ham way, and and it usually involves a lot of bombastic up and down football, lots of goals, but without a lot of winning. And I think to a degree, Arsenal, some Arsenal fans are this way inclined too, where there's a bit of a snobbishness, like, oh yeah, we won, but it was a set piece goal, or we did this, but then when things don't work out, they are okay with playing a defensive style of football. But like they are going to be nowhere near number 17 this year, Tottenham Hotspur. And they're developing young players. Odegaard, Xavi Simons, a little early for him, but he's a young player. They have that Bergval kid who didn't play, I think, this game. I don't remember. I didn't see him in the game because of the concussion from previous weekend. Um, but Tottenham has I mean, it's a hard watch if you're not their fan and you're watching a game as a neutral. But their fight, they do a lot of things that I think teams with good habits do. They run for each other, they work hard. Manchester United are starting to show a little bit of life, and they're taking advantage of the fact that they have a whole week in between games. They're out of the cups already so far, and they didn't have Europe last week, and as it showed, Tottenham couldn't really live with them for most of this game. And Man United should have been out of sight. Then all of a sudden they find themselves behind. And I don't think they would have expected themselves to go behind after the game they had been playing. And then all of a sudden, yeah, two quick fire goals. Um, Great take by Tell. And then there was another one, Richarlison and Tell basically score the goals, and then United lose this kid Sesko to an injury. So they finished the game with 10 men, and they 2-1 down, like going into the last few minutes of stoppage time, and they found a way to get back in the game to draw 2-2 thanks to De Ligt. So United and Spurs are interesting teams. They're not, gonna be blowing you out of your seat all the time, but because they're both flawed teams, but to get a 2-2 draw out of this one, I think they both would be okay with this one, and you move on if you're Tottenham, because you've just been in Europe, and then if you Man United, you've gone to a difficult away ground, even though Tottenham have been crap at home, but they're still a good team. You don't take for granted that you're going to go there and win. So you go out of there, you could have lost the game from a winning position, you save a point, you move on. Chelsea just took care of business. Wolves are still managerless, and we'll see what Wolves are about when Rob Edwards does take over the break. He's already been announced now, and I don't know why he left Middlesbrough, but people got ambitions, and he's got to do what he needs to do. And then the game I want to talk about is at a bit more length is Man City, Liverpool, and then Arsenal. And City took advantage of Arsenal, dropping points, even though between this international break and the previous one, Arsenal did gain actually 1 point more than Man City. So Arsenal did better than anybody in those top 4 or 5 positions in terms of points gained since the last international break. But obviously, when the last thing that happens before your team breaks away is that they concede a goal, um, people walk away feeling sore about that. But let's talk about Man City and Liverpool first. Manchester City 3, Liverpool 0. Liverpool actually played okay in this game. It just didn't the big moments didn't break their way. City scored a penalty that on a given day that doesn't get given. They didn't score, sorry, that penalty, but Erling Haaland, I think the ball deflects off of Konate's head, and then it kind of hits Haaland, and Haaland scores because he's in that kind of form right now. And then the second goal, Gonzalez deflects off of Van Dijk. But before that happens, Van Dijk equalizes. And I wrote online on threads that I know people are gonna say the rules are the rules, but like that was a tough one. I mean, I was not invested in who won this game. I don't want to disrespect one team by wanting the other one to win. I think Liverpool are still a formidable um, team over a 9 month season. So wanting them to win would be basically saying I think they're the least threatening team, and I don't think so. I don't think Liverpool are the least threatening team to Arsenal's title ambitions. They are champions, and they will get this right. And I think with the offensive firepower they have, if nothing else, they are the kind of team that can go on 5, 6, up to 10 wins on the bounce. They could do that. They are that good in terms of the weaponry that they possess. Liverpool. However, on this day, it was still not clicking for them, and they were a little bit unlucky here and there. I know the scoreline was 3-0, and people are going big now, like, oh, Manchester City, juggernaut this, juggernaut that. They may well be back, Manchester City. I've been very respectful of Manchester City in a lot of the videos I've made and podcasts I've made. Um, I still will be more respectful to to both of these teams than some people have been fluctuating in their opinions. Because the narrative arc now is that City are better than Liverpool, and City are the biggest threat, and City and City and City because they did the last you know mic drop basically going into the international break. And I think fair play to Manchester City. They were I think 3 points behind Arsenal going into the last international break, and Liverpool was 1 point behind Arsenal going into the last international break. The next international break, about 6 games later or so. Um, no, how many games later actually is this now? No, 6, 7 games. I think in no. Let me not jumble it up with the stats. I just know that Liverpool was 1 point behind going into the last break, and City was three, and now Liverpool is 8 points behind, and City is four. So you know, but people will have you believe that Arsenal, this, that, and the third, and I think the narrative arc is also going to be the same about Arsenal. Arsenal, they have to win it. They have to win it. As long as they're winning games, it's like they can't bottle it from here. We've only played 11 games, and yet when Manchester City does a thing like this and they win this game, now it's like, oh, Manchester City are back, and Arsenal are gonna be struggling in squeaky bum time and this, that, and the other. I think Liverpool are still in this. Chelsea are gonna make noise, but I don't think they will actually like win. I think they will have a say in where the league title ends up, because I think they're gonna take points from the teams in that I thought would be in the top three, which would be Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. And I think Manchester United will also make a bit of noise. They beat Liverpool, and they were a little unlucky to lose to Arsenal at home on the opening day. They lost to Manchester City. Um, Manchester City are a very good team, and they're starting to look like they're playing football again, like a Pep team. But I'm also noticing that they are more human than they've been. But yes, they do have some people who have won the Champions League and have won the Premier League, and Arsenal don't. So they have that, and I respect that. And they won the Premier League as of just 2 seasons ago. And Liverpool, until Arsenal wins, I'm not going to disrespect either of these two teams because they've won more recently, and they still have champions in their team who won a Premier League team. Chelsea, yes, they've won the Premier League more recently than Arsenal, but their team is not filled with people who have done it at Chelsea, and definitely not anywhere else. A lot of those kids because they're young. So yeah, like I'm not disrespecting either of these teams. I think it was a good game. I watched it stress free. To be honest, I I saw a different game to what I see the post hoc analysis turning out to be, as if like Liverpool, got there and they were just torqued for City and the floor was wiped with them. I think Liverpool are struggling at the moment. They're missing Allison too, who's a big player for them, keeps them in games, and they're gonna figure this out. Like they have to. They have to. And we will see where everything is come like late January going into February. Because like at this point, there's still a lot of football to be played to be talking big in any one direction. And big teams are going to say a lot. And that brings me to Sunderland too and Arsenal too. And Arsenal basically are being spoken of here as of like, they have given up the title now, and they I don't understand the way people are talking about Arsenal, and this is Arsenal fans, and then a lot of the people in the media as well. Um, this team just went something like 10 games without conceding a goal, winning most of them, if not all of them actually, like, and then conceding a goal and drawing this game, conceding 2 goals and drawing this game. 11 games in, 5 goals conceded, and now people I want to have a conversation. They want to have a conversation about Gabriel. They want to have a conversation about David Raya if he had come out of, he was out of position or this that. Raya is a forward, like front-footed goalkeeper. He is a guy who's proactive, and if the ball doesn't hit Gabriel's head for that second goal, probably Raya makes contact with the ball and it's probably another save. But unfortunately, both him and Gabriel, who concedes a bit of territorial advantage to Bobby, but sometimes you have to give the other team praise, and I want to give Sunderland praise. I think Sunderland are the best team Arsenal has faced on form, not the best team overall, but on the day the game was played, I think our Sunderland imposed their will on Arsenal better than any opponent this season. They were that good on the day. And they've been good over the season based on who they've faced. I think Sunderland is a team that sticks to what they do and do what they do very well. And they also study their opponent. There was something like I read somewhere a stat saying the ball in the first half was in play for 23 minutes. 23 minutes of ball in play time. That's exactly the kind of game you want to have against Arsenal, because Arteta's Arsenal want the ball in play and they want the ball in rhythm, and they can build momentum and they can keep sustained pressure on anyone's defense. And the ball is not in play for 22 minutes. That's like half of the entire half of football. And you add to that the fact that there was like 7, 8 minutes of stoppage time, and the ball was in play for 23 minutes out of 54, 55 minutes of football being played. So I think Sunderland deserve credit for taking the game the way in the direction they wanted it to go. And then secondly, again, I'm not mad at the referee for letting the game be physical, because Arsenal can play a physical game. What I'm upset about with Craig Pawson is he swallowed his whistle when Sunderland were being really physical and really, really, really strong with Arsenal players in their challenges. And then he found his whistle when Arsenal were doing the same thing. That for me was my issue. It was how homebound the leaning the whistle was. I don't mind the physical, and Arsenal didn't complain. They were not complaining a lot at all for about being kicked. So like, there's no more like ruffle Arsenal and get up under their skin and they're gonna flake. This team is not flaky. This was a winning performance by an Arsenal team that didn't finish their dinner up front. While people may talk about the pressure that Sunderland applied on our defense, I was very, very impressed quietly by how well we played in that second half and how many chances we generated while they were sitting in a low block. I think Arsenal found a way to generate a lot of good offensive opportunities. Like Zubimendi, I can think two clean chances. That one he hits it from the goal he scored against Nottingham Forest. He hits a very good opportunity from 20 yards ish, just outside the D, um, and hits the crossbar. And then he misses a good chance. I think Leonardo Trossard or somebody, or maybe Calafiori. I don't remember who plays him in from just 6 yards in front of goal. He tries to kind of like glide it in, and it goes wide. But that's your number six, getting those chances. Saka misses chances from the left channel, from the inside zone 14 kind of channel, and then he scores with his right foot. Leandro Trossard was a menace on the day, a menace on the day. And he was probably, outside of Saka, he was the best of other offensive option that we had on the day. He was creative, he was inventive, he was holding on to the ball when he needed to and making the riskier passes when we needed to. And he scores a blinder of a goal to make it 2-1. So, whilst a lot of people are complaining about Arsenal drawing a game, like that's not allowed, especially when you've had that many clean sheets and gone on a historic run of not conceding a goal and winning. It's been a winning streak that we haven't seen since the 2 seasons ago, 23-24, when we lost by the league by 2 points. So I think Arsenal are in good shape, considering they're doing this after playing 3 away games in 7 days and playing every 3 days since the last international break, and having zero help from Kai Havertz, Noni Madueke, um, almost 2% help from Martin Odegaard. I don't think Odegaard has played a game in this little stretch since the last international break. Maybe he got hurt in the. Yeah, I don't think he played a game. So you don't have those three: Havertz, Odegaard, Madueke, and you lost Gyökeres a week ago, and you didn't have Martinelli for the last three as well. Like, there's a lot of players who are going to come in and bring a lot more offensive impetus in this Arsenal team, and nobody's talking about these injuries. But like these boys are really doing the business like we haven't seen before, and no one is wanting to talk about it because it's convenient to not talk about it. So Sunderland were good, and Arsenal were good. Sometimes teams play good football, and sometimes tactics, and styles of matches. What do they call it in American sports? Matchups. I think that's what they call it. They talk about matchups make fight, and I think of um, good stuff that's coming. You know what I mean? There's a lot that's going to be coming, and I think people just need to be patient with it. Like, if you're an Arsenal fan and you're watching this team, like, and you've been watching over 5 years or so, I think you are in for a treat. Like, because everybody keeps talking about, like, I'm fair. I'm an Arsenal fan, but I'm fair. I was talking about how Liverpool will still click at some point. I'm not counting them out, but Arsenal will click too, because they have all these offensive players that haven't been taking part. They You throw Madueke back in the mix. You throw Kai Havertz back in the mix. You regain Gyökeres. You regain Martinelli. You regain Odegaard. I might even be missing somebody. Gabriel Jesus. That's 6 players. No, you never ever gonna have an entire squad fit at the same time. But you give me 2 or 3 of those guys, we're back cooking again. But I think we're likely to get 4, maybe 5 of those guys by the time December hits. I think Odegaard is not far. Kai Havertz is definitely not far. Now, obviously, they're going to need to ramp up a little bit because they've been out for a long time, especially Kai and Noni and Jesus. But Odegaard, it's a knee issue. So yes, it's been a few weeks, and then you can build from there. And I think the problem with a lot of the football talk right now is every time, especially a team like Arsenal drops points, it's like a referendum. Ateta should have made these changes. Ateta should have done this thing over there. Sometimes, guys, it just doesn't fall your way. Arsenal created enough chances. They played better in this game than in games they won. Sunderland had less than one xG. I think they had a point 0.8 xG when I looked it up. Arsenal had almost two xG. It was 1.9 something. So Arsenal were on par in terms of what they scored. And Sunderland far, far, far outperformed their XG. And yes, stats are not everything. Okay. So you still can outperform your XG. But Sunderland, if you play this game 10 more times or 10 times, Arsenal wins it 9 times, I would say. Sunderland were creditable, but they were not on the same level. Nowhere near the same level. And I'm still respectful enough to say to them they were the best opponent Arsenal has come across on a given day, because they were able to take the game where they wanted to take it. And fair play to them for that. And you travel to the Northeast, and you play in a football culture that is a bit more agricultural, and the referee finds a degree of nostalgia in the way they blow they blow their whistle, because they like, good old fashioned English football. It's physical. It's a bit rugby like. So, and Arsenal can do that dance, by the way. I just wish the referee allowed us to do it too. That's my only issue. Like, don't give Zubimendi a foul. Like, don't blow a foul on Zubimendi and give him a yellow card for a tackle that's better than any tackle Reinildo made on Saka. And he didn't get a yellow card till like the 80 something minutes of the game. I think Craig Pawson, he's not the reason Arsenal didn't win this game, but I do think he let the game get away from him. He was not on par. I I'd be very happy not to see him again in an Arsenal game. I would be happy to see him not refereeing any Premier League games, to be honest. And he was not even horrendous. He was just He's just a poor guy. Like, I don't even think referees in England are. I don't think referees in general are bad people. I just think these guys in England, a lot of them are just incompetent, in my opinion. I just don't. I don't even want to talk about them too much. So I'm going to stop there. But I think Arsenal is still the most complete team I've seen in the Premier League, and if they can just get players back, they'll be Gucci. They'll be good. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop this one here. I have to try to get this